Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
On the national news this hour from Babagagede Imo Television, first the headlines. Tinubu presents budgets Wednesday, fake OK's $1 billion loan. Tinubu to Umahi, fixing of bad roads must commence December 1. PDP and Labour Party are controlled by Tinubu, Voila. Man sentenced to death for killing his neighbor. Lagos driver jailed 14 years for attempted robbery. On sport, Samson Siasia expresses concerns over Super Eagles' readiness for AFCON glory. I am Morire Rabila Lawal, the news in detail. President Bola Tinubu will on Wednesday present the 2024 appropriation bill to a joint session of the National Assembly. This came as the Federal Executive Council on Monday approved the 2024 appropriation bill of 27.5 trillion naira. This is an increase from the 26.01 trillion naira earlier considered by the Council. The Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Abubakar Bagudu, disclosed the approval to State House correspondent after the close of FEC's weekly meeting presided over by Tinubu at the Aso Rock Villa, Abuja. While disclosing that the federal government is projecting 18 trillion naira revenue for the 2024 fiscal year, Bagudu said further details of the appropriation bill would be released when the President presents it to a joint session of the National Assembly on Wednesday. According to the Minister, the medium-term expenditure framework passed by the National Assembly is being reviewed by the Council. Bagudu said equally the Federal Executive Council approved the 2024 appropriation bill and the presentation of such to the National Assembly by His Excellency Mr. President. The bill has an aggregate expenditure of 27.5 trillion naira, which is an increase of over 1.5 trillion naira from the previously estimated using the old reference prices. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Senator Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is aware of the state of our road infrastructure, which he inherited on the 29th day of May 2023. Without prejudice to all the good effort of past administration on road infrastructure development, which they tackled within the limit of their resources, the work to be done to change the ugly state of our roads is quite enormous. Mr. President is not complaining about the challenges he inherited in nearly all sectors of the economy, especially as it concerns our road infrastructure, but he is quite courageous as he had promised to tackle the problems head-on, which he has started. To do not minding the debt burden inherited, especially the funding gap of over 6 trillion naira from most of the inherited ongoing road projects. Mr. President has since our plans of commitment, consistency, and innovations toward actualizing a sustainable road infrastructure development throughout the country. He has just approved a 2023 supplementary budget of 300 billion naira for the Ministry of Work, comprising of 100 billion naira for immediate palliative works in 36 states and FCT, and 200 billion naira for continuation of most of the inherited ongoing projects and very few new but critical road projects. Mr. President has directed that works in those palliative projects must commence before 1st December 2024. 2023, while observing all due process. On the sections being frequently complained of the public in all regions of the north and south of the country, Mr. President has equally isolated them and directed immediate actions on them, and indeed work has started on all such roads. The public can cross-check our claims and report back to us. The engagement of the Federal Ministry of Works will not be limited to these isolatedly reported cases, but shall be holistic in our approach through these approved palliative measures and the interventions of FEMA in all the 36 states and FCT also. Daniel Bwala, a spokesperson of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, presidential candidate in the 2023 elections, Atiku Abubakar, has claimed that PDP and the Labour Party are being controlled by President Bola Tinubu. Speaking, Bwala stated that the president is controlling the opposition through process. He insisted that the country is currently operating a one-party state, adding that the only way forward is for the opposition to come together and form a formidable front. The PDP chieftain lamented that Tinubu is determined to keep the oppositions in disarray till 2027. According to him, the truth is both the PDP and the Labour Party are controlled by President Bola Tinubu through proxies. Nigeria is one party, as he claimed. This is one and is going to court, and this one is about to go to court. They have sacked the presidential candidate of the new Nigeria People's Party. Then in PDP, you have one of the individuals who is a cabinet member in this administration that held the party by the balls as we speak today. A middle-aged man, Joseph Abami, was on Monday sentenced to death for hacking his neighbor, Thomas Oluwole's death in Ondo State. Information reported that Abami was sentenced to death by Ondo State High Court sitting in Akure after he was found guilty of killing Oluwole in 2021 at the Ijoka area of Akure, the state capital. The convict was said to have been involved in an argument of well water poisoning with the deceased. During the argument, Abami was said to have attacked the deceased 63-year-old bricklayer with a machete at his neck and other parts of his body. He was later arrested by the police following a report and subsequently charged to court on the count charge of murder. The court charge was filed through the information deposited at the court by an Assistant Chief Legal Advisor, Mrs. Omotola Ologun, from the Ondo State Ministry of Justice. During the proceedings, the convict was said to have claimed to be insane while committing the crime. After a series of arguments from both the prosecuting and the defense counsels, the court found Abami guilty of the offense. In his judgment, the trial judge, Justice O.S. Kuteyi, said Abami cannot be exonerated from the death of Oluwole following his actions. You are watching the national news from Baba Gbagede Imo Television. An Ikeja High Court on Monday pronounced a 14-year prison term for Suman Olabode, a 36-year-old driver convicted of attempted robbery. The verdict came from Justice O.A. Ogala, who delivered judgment on an amended charge of attempted robbery following a plea bargain application. Initially pleaded not guilty to a count of armed robbery during the first arraignment. Olabode opted for a plea bargain agreement as the trial progressed. However, during the trial, the prosecution counsel presented 3 witnesses. Subsequently, the defendant opted to file for a plea bargain agreement, leading to the amendment of the charges. During the case hearing on Monday, the prosecution counsel informed the court about the 1-count amended charge. The court heard that Olabode had attempted to rob one Adedeji Oluwaseun of his Nokia X Windows phone. The offense was committed on September 18, 2016 at number 34 Gweleyi Street, Alakoko, Lagos State. The prosecution argued that this act contravenes Section 298(1) of the Criminal Law of Lagos State 2015. Olabode pleaded guilty to the charge. The prosecution counsel urged the court to impose the full extent of the plea bargain agreed upon by the defendant. Consequently, Justice Ogala found Olabode guilty and sentenced him to 14 years, effective from October 28, 2016, the day of remand. From Lagos to Ogun. Residents of Oyede Avenue Plaza in the Songota area of Ogun State on Sunday discovered the decomposed body of a newborn baby in the neighborhood. A police source said that online the mother of the baby girl, identified simply as 21-year-old Esther Ojuko, who was believed to have delivered the baby alive, allegedly did the act by wrapping the baby inside a sack and throwing her into a nearby compound. Correspondent could not ascertain how old the deceased baby was when the incident happened. The state police command said Ojuko might be mentally unbalanced at the time of the crime. Information gathered that from the command when a stench dominated the area, some residents began combing the surroundings to find out the source of the unpleasant smell. Correspondent also gathered that a resident later discovered that the stench was emanating from a sack behind the compound in the area. While the resident unfound the sack, they were greeted with shock after they found the decomposed body of the newborn tightly wrapped. Upon discovery, one of the residents, identified simply as Ogumuiwa, was said to have approached the Songota Police Division to report the incident. Contacted the State Police Public Relations Officer, Omolola Odutola, who confirmed the incident to correspondent on Monday, said the mother had been arrested. After the peace meeting with President Bola Tinubu in Abuja on Friday, members of the Ondo State House of Assembly will meet today to discuss the polity in the state. A source in the Assembly said one of the major issues on the Assembly agenda for today's plenary was the consideration of whether or not to declare the State Deputy Governor, Lucky Aiyedatiwa, as the acting governor, following the long absence of Governor Rotimi Akeredolu. The source said the House plans to sit today and Aiyedatiwa may be declared acting governor during the sitting. This is part of the outcome of the meeting with President Tinubu. When contacted on the matter, the Speaker of the House, Olamide Oladeji, said he was at a meeting. I will let you know whether the meeting will be held today because we are at a meeting now. After the meeting, I will let you know, the Speaker claimed. As of the time of filing this report, there was no information from the Speaker. Going to the far north, one of the existing most notorious Boko Haram commanders, Abu Asad, has been killed at the Mandara Hills axis of Borno State. Abu Asad, according to report, was killed cause of his combatants at the Tungushi in an air raid by the air component of Operation Adenke Theater Command between midnight of Saturday and early morning of Sunday between 25th and 26th. Locals in the Mandara Hills and Goza jubilated as the Nigerian Air Force announced the elimination of the notorious Boko Haram commander at the Mandara Hill. The Nigeria Air Force confirmed the elimination of the terrorist kingpin, who was said to be a key figure in the Ali Ungelde faction of the terrorist group. Some say he was, at the time, even second in command to the late Abubakar Shekau. Jubilant locals described the elimination of Abu Asad and scores of his combatants as a huge success in the war against terror in the northeast. Pediatricians have said that babies with 1 or 2 teeth present at birth were perfectly normal. This statement dispels the fears, age-long myth, and discomfort parents and relatives have been or when their babies are born with it. They discourage parents of such children from removing the teeth, warning that the removal could later disrupt the proper growth and dentition of the child. A study by Bankole on dispelling myths associated with natal or neonatal teeth found out that, irrespective of the social class, Nigerians believe that babies with natal or neonatal teeth and their families were cursed. Outside of Nigeria, such babies were believed to be a vampire or monsters, and the teeth were a sacrilegious sign and a mark of devil. As a result, the parent, relative, and in some cases, nurses, as the report stated, usually insisted on the removal of the teeth and spiritual cleansing. The child health expert explained that in newborns, the teeth are called natal teeth, and neonatal teeth in babies grow these teeth after 1 month of birth. Usually, a baby starts erupting teeth at 6 months, but the pediatricians explained that babies with natal or neonatal teeth had early onset of teeth growth and likened the situation to babies who started walking at 6 months. Moving on to the next story. A 40-year-old man simply identified as Chinedu has been confirmed dead, while 2 sustained varying degrees of injury as bags of cement collapsed on 3 construction workers in a site at Usman Magaji Street, Ajabandi, in Lagos State. Information learned that the incident happened at about 10 a.m. on Monday. It was also learned that 3 construction workers were sleeping inside the site when the bags of cement collapsed on them. An eyewitness who pleaded anonymity said he found cement bags on the 3 workers after hearing a frightening noise, adding that they were off. We immediately rushed them to the hospital because the amount of cement that fell on them was a lot. I'm sure they would have injuries because carrying cement is very heavy, let alone plenty of cement bags falling on a human being. Another eyewitness, Abimbola, said the victims were immediately rushed to the hospital, but 1 person died and others sustained degrees of injuries. Unlike Nigeria, where terrorists are disarmed, rehabilitated and reintegrated into the society, the military government of Burkina Faso believes in the outright elimination of terrorists in the country. According to Zagazola, a counterinsurgency platform, at least 400 terrorists have been barbecued so far in Burkina Faso. A lot of reactions have trailed the report, with many declaring support for the military government of Burkina Faso. Meanwhile, in Nigeria this year, the federal government established 2 disarmament, deradicalization, rehabilitation, and reintegration centers for repent Boko Haram members and other terrorist groups. According to a presentation made by the coordinator of the National Counter-Terrorism Center, Rear Admiral Yen Musa, retired, to the House of Representatives Committee on National Security and Intelligence, the establishment of the centers were part of the capital project of 2023. Out of a capital expenditure of over 3 million proposed, 2 million was spent on the centers. Finally, on sports. Samson Siasia, former Super Eagles head coach, raised concerns about the current team's ability to claim the African Cup of Nations title, citing their inconsistent performances and lack of cohesive play as a major impediment. Speaking on Sport in his first official interview after the expiration of his FIFA ban, Siasia expressed worry over the team's unconvincing displays against Lesotho and Zimbabwe, stating that such performances don't reflect a team prepared to win in the Nations Cup or secure a spot in the 2026 World Cup. While acknowledging the talent within the squad, Siasia emphasized the need for unity among players and an improved tactical approach from the coach, stating that disorganization and a lack of coherent game plan were evident during the recent matches. As a former Nations Cup winner in 1994, Siasia stressed the disappointment Nigeria might face if they fail to capitalize on the abundance of talent and don't secure victories in the AFCON or World Cup qualifiers. Addressing the Nigeria Football Federation, NFF, Siasia said, urgent timely resolution of issues like outstanding salaries to coaches, emphasizing that such distractions could adversely affect the team's concentration. Regarding the potential return to Quota's Eagles, Siasia affirmed his willingness to serve Nigeria, expressing readiness to leverage his expertise if given the opportunities after completing coaching courses abroad in the upcoming weeks. With a sports story, we've come to the end of today's national news. Before we go, some headlines. Tinubu presents budgets Wednesday, fake all case $1 billion loan. Tinubu to Umahi, fixing of bad roads must commence December 1st. PDP and Labour Party are controlled by Tinubu, Voila. Man sentenced to death for killing his neighbor. Lagos driver jailed 14 years for attempted robbery. On sport, Samson Siasia expressed concerns over Super Eagles' readiness for AFCON proper in Côte d'Ivoire next year, January. For update of our broadcast on YouTube, our handle is Babagbagede Ibo Television. Can you subscribe and click on the notification bell, select option all to access all of our broadcasts. On Facebook, Bagede Imo with Alawi Adebayo. Please like and follow the page. For advert placement, typical and services, coverage of events and function, please dial the phone number streaming on your screen. Thank you for watching. I am Moriri Pemila Lawa. Good afternoon.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.